Hey y'all, welcome to What I Learned Today. So today we're going to talk about parents. All right. And when you realize your parents are people too. So I remember in my 20s, I ended up moving back home unexpectedly. And it ended up being a very good thing for me. I realized a lot of things actually when I moved back home. And I'll talk about those in other episodes. But one of the things that I realized was that my parents are people too. I began to see them by who they were, right? I was no longer, I still called them mom and dad or mommy and daddy, but I wasn't seeing them as mom and dad. I was seeing them. My father's name was Russell. My mom's name is Yvette, and I was seeing Yvette, and I was seeing Russell, and I was seeing who they were as people, and it changed the way in which I understood them in the world, right? Because as a child looking to their parents, there is this belief and this expectation and this assumption that they know everything, they got it together, that they should know better, that some things they're doing on purpose and things like that. And all of a sudden it was just like, wait, they're they're people. Like they don't know everything. They're still figuring some things out. And then they were people like my age at the time who chose to take on the role of helping other people, little people called children, grow up and maneuver in this world. Like they don't know. They were learning how to do this in real time. Like they didn't have a class that taught them how to do it, how to get along with the different personalities of their children. Now, my mother was a teacher and a guidance counselor, so she did have some classes. But even with that, she had her own upbringing that she learned how to parent from, which was very different because she was raised by her paternal grandmother during a time of a lot of civil unrest and racial injustice. Um, and then my father was from a small town, and here he was now living in the city with children who were raised in the city. And so there were just all of these different dynamics that when you're growing up, you're not taking that stuff into consideration. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it plays out in who they are as parents, which is only one role that they're playing, right? In the midst of all the other roles, and I talked about that in another segment. So let's take my mother. She was the role of a mother. She was the role of a daughter because her mother was still alive. She was the role of a big sister. She had the role of being a wife. She had the role of being a friend. She had the role of being a teacher, right? She had all of these roles and she's navigating all that. And on the flip side, my father had his various roles as well, and parent just being one of those roles. And so, as they're flipping back and forth and weaving through all of these different roles and what's being called on or tugged on them in that particular role, some spaces they were not developed, right? They're figuring it out in real time as life events are being presented to them. And that was an incredible moment for me as I sat there, like I said, mid 20s, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, y'all did the best that y'all knew how to do at the time. And sometimes it was great and spot on, and sometimes it was a miss, right? It was like, that is not working with me or for me, but they didn't know that until they did, right? Until I told them, like, I don't need that type of parenting. I don't need that type of guidance. This is exactly what I need. This is the type of encouragement that I need. So now this goes back to the importance of knowing yourself so that you can advocate for yourself, so you know what's your truth and what's not your truth. Um, there's so much in that I want to unpack, but I want to do it in a structured way. So I'll just create another video to talk about some of those different pieces separately. But I want you to take a moment and think about who your parents are. I mean, you can interview them, ask them who they are, ask them, what their childhood was like, ask them what their teenage life was like, ask them about becoming parents, who were their role models, who do they try to imitate as parents? What are the lessons that they want to pass on? I know y'all like, dang, is this a video or a homework assignment? It is all the above. It's an opportunity for you to understand who your parents are and to get to know them as people. I answer to a lot of different names when people call on Dr. Walls. That activates a certain part of my brain, right? I move into an analysis. I move into very high level critical analytical thinking versus if somebody calls me by my nickname, then I'm more likely to be in a playful space. Now, I'm always a critical thinker and an analytical thinker, but I'm not leading with that. When I'm called another name, that may activate a different side of me. I'm not saying somebody call me out my name because that's going to activate, as someone told me, alley cat. So I'm not talking about that. I am talking about when we are called on by different names, we respond. Usually we have roles associated with those different names. So when I would call on my mom, that's activating that part of her. I call on my dad, that's activating that part of him. So they're people just like us. And for people who have chosen to become parents, this is a reminder that you are more than just that role, that you are consistent, you have a lot of other roles that you consist of. And it is important that you remember that and make sure that you're nurturing those different aspects of yourself and tending to those different aspects of yourself so that you can experience the fullness of your life. And then, as far as your parents are concerned, remember they are also people too. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.